I'm Monica from Geeks.Gogo.com. I'm here today with Joseph Illidge.
Hello.
And he is owner and partner of Verge Entertainment. He's also the first African-American editor for DC's Batman. And he is the senior editorial manager for Lionforge. Donning many hats in geek culture and the industry, what has been the pivotal point of your career?
The pivotal point of my career would have to be working at Milestone Media. Milestone was the first African-American owned comic book company that had a deal with a publishing industry giant, which was DC Comics, and they produced a line of superhero comics in a universe that was multicultural, more so than any other comic book universe before it or since. And I started there as an intern, and I worked my way up into the business sector. Then I moved over to Editorial, where I was trained by Dwayne McDuffie, editor-in-chief of Milestone, one of the most significant writers in American superhero comics and in animation. He did amazing work on Justice League Unlimited, Ben 10, Static Shock, which was based off of one of the popular Milestone characters, Static. So working at Milestone would be the pivotal point in my career that really set me off on the path to be an editor and a writer and really promote diversity and inclusion in comic books.
You've been involved in a lot of panels about diversity, and where do you see the future of diversity forming for the comic book industry?
Well, it's really complicated. As far as I'm concerned, we've actually taken a step backward. If you look at when Milestone was around, since Milestone published monthly with DC Comics, I feel like the comic book industry has not yet caught up to the level of multiculturalism that you saw in the Milestone universe. So we are working our way back towards it. Marvel has taken some interesting steps. DC Comics has taken some small steps. Other publishers have done it. We now finally have some black women writing comic books. One of them will be for Lionforge Comics. And so we have to work our way back to where Milestone put us. Once we get back to that 0 point, then we can move forward.
What kind of barriers or how can we break that barrier, do you think, with diversity in comics?
Well, we break it the same way we have to break it in any other industry. There's really this misconception that comic book as an industry is different from any other business, and it's not. It's the same. So we still have a lot of institutional prejudice, we still have ignorance, we still have sexism, we still have harassment of women, victimization of women, marginalization of people from the LGBT community. So the way we break the barriers is that the people who are in the industry have to tell their stories in any way they can. The people who are working behind the scenes have to widen their viewpoints and expand their pool of creators, and they have to invite new and different voices. When you keep going to the same voices to do things, the books start sounding the same, they start feeling the same. And when you look at our population in America and you look at the fact that just with blacks and Latinos, you're talking about more than 30% of the American population, that's a lot of buying power. And if you look at some of the things that are successful now in popular entertainment, like Scandal, like Empire, Sleepy Hollow, you're finding a lot of more diverse casting in television shows, like Preacher. We are expanding in these areas, and so comic books has to catch up with popular entertainment in the way of expanding the pool of creators, showing more characters from different backgrounds, and those characters and those stories being told by a bunch of different writers and viewpoints, and not the same pool of writers. The idea that any given writer is writing 7 monthly comic books between 3 companies when there are a variety of voices out there that are not even allowed to write a miniseries, that's unforgivable in this business. And we have to get past that. We have to spread the wealth, and we have to find more voices in comics and outside of comics.
In Solar Man's storyline, it shows a lot of bullying, hacking, and drugs. Are these issues that you have for Ben Tucker's character, are these inspired by current events that's going on right now in the country?
Well, basically what happened with Solar Man is that Solar Man was published in 1989 by Marvel Comics. It was written by Stan Lee. The owners are a couple named David Oliphant and Deborah Kallman. And in those days, Solar Man was a white character. And 2 issues came out. In the second issue, the character fought Dr. Doom. And it sold a lot of copies by our standards today, but not by the standards of publication in 1989. It was canceled. And Dave and Deb held on to the character for a lot of years. They wanted to find the right home for it. They found it with Scout Comics, independent publisher. The CEO of Scout Comics, Brendan Deneen, came to me and said, hey, we have the Solar Man license. The character is now black. We want to use this opportunity to explore social issues and themes that are happening right now in the United States, like bullying, like the kind of prejudice that you are seeing against young black men in hoodies, young black men from urban communities, how they're being treated by authority structures, what is their response to that. So the approach that we've taken to Solar Man, Brendan Deneen and myself, the co-writers, the artist N. Stephen Harris, the colorist Andrew Dalhouse, the letterer Marshall Dillon, the designer Richard Ems, all of us as a team, what we see with Solar Man is an opportunity to take this young man who is a hacker who lives in the East New York section of Brooklyn, who has been bullied as a teenager for a variety of reasons. When he gets this superpower, we basically show how it makes his life more complicated, and it makes his life more complicated in ways that a white male counterpart would not experience the same thing. So if you give 5 different people from different backgrounds superpowers, how the world is going to respond to them is in 5 entirely different ways. So how the world responds to this young black man getting superpowers is pretty specific to his narrative. So yes, it is touching upon social issues. It would be somewhat irresponsible if we're going to have a young black male superhero and not touch upon social issues today, but it is wrapped within the genre of superheroic action.
And I think that's kind of like a good thing to have, because a lot of your audience too, and a lot of the fan base who reads the comic will definitely like identify with that character.
Oh, I would say so. I mean, you know, the reading audience, they're very intelligent. They're politically aware. They know what's going on. And a number of them actually relate to this young man. A number of them are people of color from urban communities, or people of color outside of urban communities, that know that they are not perceived as equal citizens in this nation, that have to put up their guard when they are around representatives from different authority structures. You know, right now we are unfortunately living in a time of galvanized fear. We are in a climate of fear. And I think one of the only ways that we can address this is expressing it through art. And comic books is now risen to the point in America, due to the popularity of the Marvel Cinematic Universe and things of that nature, where comic books are now able to make an impact. And so it is our responsibility as the caretakers of this medium and industry to use this opportunity to tell these stories. Not every story has to connect directly to social themes, but all of these characters have to have some kind of basis in reality. And by having a basis of reality, you're going to connect to society by default.
Currently, Lionforge has acquired Magnetic Press. Can you tell us more about the feature of the acquisition and the company?
Well, yeah, to give you some background, Lionforge was created 5 years ago, founded by David Stewart II, and Lionforge is very much about inclusion and a diversity of material and content. And what's happening with Magnetic Press, the acquisition of Magnetic Press, is one piece of the new Lionforge. And myself as senior editor, I am developing an initiative. We've announced some of the writers that are on board with this initiative. Brandon Thomas, who's writing Horizon for Image, which is critically acclaimed, David Walker, who's the writer of Power Man and Iron Fist for Marvel, which tells the monthly stories of the Luke Cage character from the Netflix television series. We have Ramon Gouveia, who's a filmmaker and producer. He actually created one of the projects that we're going to be talking about. Dr. Sheena Howard, who is the first black woman to win an Eisner Award for her book, Black Comics, Politics, and Representation. She is an author, she is a scholar, she is a documentary filmmaker. Joe Casey. Joe Casey is one of the creators and founders of Man of Action TV. Among many things that they've created is Ben 10. Joe Casey is the co-creator of the character America Chavez, very popular Latina character from the Marvel Avengers universe. So these are some of the writers that I'm bringing together for a big initiative that I'm going to do for Lionforge. And what we're going to do is be a company with quality product from a variety of different creators, from different perspectives. We're going to have different lines of books, and we are going to really make an impact in the direct market with retailer relationships, with relationships with the fans, and in the book trade market, in which there is a lot of graphic novel growth, which is really important, because for us the important thing, in addition to working with the best creators to get the best stories, is getting these books to the audience in whatever format the audience wants it. So if they want it in the form of a book with a spine, we'll get it to them. If they want it in the form of a serialized monthly comic book series, we will get it to them. If they want it in digital form, we will get it to them. So once you put together the right content by bringing together the right groups of people, then it's about putting it in the correct format to get it to the different audiences.
Wonderful. I'm really excited what you have in store, especially for next year and all the new things that are coming up.
Thank you very much.
And I thank you so much for taking the time and talking to me.
You're quite welcome. Thank you for interviewing me, and keep your eyes on what Lionforge is doing, because by the end of the Comic-Con, we're going to be making some really big announcements.
I know, looking forward to it. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Thank you.